What if I told you the most powerful dynasty in the modern world doesn't rule because people love it, doesn't survive because people vote for it, and doesn't fear the crises that topple governments across the West? What if real power isn't democracy or military strength, but position? How did one desert family become untouchable while other oil states fell into chaos? Why do recessions weaken elected leaders but leave this dynasty standing taller? And if the world keeps talking about moving beyond oil, why does the system never collapse? This isn't just a story about Saudi Arabia. It's about leverage so deeply embedded in the global economy that removing it would feel like pulling oxygen from the room. To understand how the House of Saud became untouchable, you have to begin in a place that looked nothing like the Saudi Arabia we imagine today. No towers, no sovereign wealth funds, no global summits. In the early 20th century, the Arabian Peninsula was fragmented and poor, carved up by tribes and shifting loyalties. Power did not come from institutions. It came from personal allegiance, land control, and the ability to hold territory. Among many competing families was one that refused to disappear. In 1902, Ibn Saud launched a bold campaign to retake Riyadh, beginning a 30-year consolidation that would eventually unify most of the peninsula. This unification did not emerge from public negotiation or constitutional compromise. It was built through conquest, alliance, and dynastic concentration. From the start, power was centralized and personal. In Europe and North America, modern states evolved through tension between rulers and taxpayers. Governments needed money. Citizens demanded rights in exchange. Parliaments formed because revenue required negotiation. Accountability grew out of financial dependence. Saudi Arabia never experienced that friction. Just as the new kingdom was forming, oil was discovered in commercial quantities in 1938. That discovery did more than create wealth. It bypassed the political bargaining process entirely. Revenue no longer depended on taxing citizens. It flowed from beneath the earth, paid directly into the ruling structure. When a government does not need your money, it does not need your permission. That single structural shift shaped everything that followed. Instead of extracting revenue from society, the ruling family distributed it. Subsidized fuel, public sector jobs, infrastructure, healthcare, benefits replaced political negotiation. Loyalty was maintained not through ballots, but through allocation. Economists call this a rentier system, but the logic is simple. If you own the only toll booth on the only road, you do not need to ask the travelers for approval. Oil turned the kingdom into that toll booth on a global scale. After World War II, industrial expansion made petroleum indispensable. Cars, aviation, electricity, logistics, modern life synchronized with oil. Saudi Arabia happened to sit atop some of the largest and cheapest reserves in the world. That meant its leverage was not theatrical or loud. It was structural. The global economy could function without many governments. It could not function without energy. By mid-century, the House of Saud had achieved something rare in history: revenue without representation. Stability did not depend on electoral legitimacy. It depended on distribution and control. Oil revenues were converted into foreign reserves, strategic alliances, and military partnerships. Wealth became insulation. External protection strengthened internal security. Unlike Western leaders bound by election cycles and fiscal deficits, the dynasty operated on generational timelines. Its objective was not popularity. It was permanence. The 1970s revealed just how deep that leverage ran. During the oil crisis, supply tightened and prices surged, sending shockwaves through global markets. Inflation spiked, growth slowed, political tensions rose. The world suddenly understood that oil was not just a commodity, it was a bottleneck. At the center of that bottleneck stood Saudi Arabia, a leading force inside OPEC. When oil flows freely, economies expand. When it constricts, financial systems strain. The distance between a desert oil field and a household budget in Europe or the United States proved shorter than anyone expected. But energy leverage evolved into financial leverage. Oil was priced in dollars, and those dollars did not remain idle. They were reinvested into Western bonds, banks, and markets, reinforcing the dollar's global dominance and binding financial systems together. Saudi Arabia became embedded in the architecture of global liquidity. It was not merely exporting oil. It was recycling capital back into the very economies that depended on its supply. Influence expanded quietly through integration rather than confrontation. Dependency became mutual but asymmetrical. Western governments needed energy stability. Financial markets needed capital flows. The kingdom needed security guarantees and market access. The result was entanglement rather than simple dominance. Here is where the contrast becomes sharper. In democracies, economic pain quickly translates into political consequences. Inflation erodes trust. Leaders lose elections. Policies become reactive because voters impose deadlines. The Saudi system does not operate on 4-year cycles. When oil prices rise, fiscal strength increases. When prices fall, reserves absorb the shock. When domestic pressure builds, spending expands. When geopolitical winds shift, alliances recalibrate quietly. The timeline stretches beyond news cycles and beyond public approval. Many assume such systems are fragile because they lack electoral legitimacy. Yet history suggests that systems insulated from public pressure can be remarkably durable in crises. They can move swiftly. They can suppress instability. They can endure volatility without negotiating every adjustment. The House of Saud survived regional conflicts, global recessions, oil price collapses, and waves of criticism. Not because shocks never arrived, but because the structure absorbed them. Today, the world speaks confidently about energy transitions and post-oil futures. Yet petroleum remains deeply woven into transportation, manufacturing, and global supply chains. Transforming that dependence is not a short-term policy shift. It is a multi-decade reconstruction of infrastructure. And time favors those already positioned at the center. Each year oil remains essential, the system renews itself. Each price spike reinforces how upstream energy truly sits. The deeper lesson is not about ideology or morality. It is about placement. Modern power often belongs to those who control choke points, energy corridors, financial flows, strategic supply. Control the bottlenecks and you shape the rhythm of the broader system. The House of Saud did not rely on popularity to survive. It relied on structural relevance. In a world that prides itself on democratic turnover and market competition, one dynasty positioned itself where everyone else must pass. And leverage, once embedded at the foundation of global systems, is extraordinarily difficult to dislodge. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers, and I'll show you where to.